ask, Julia from Unhcr to give opening remarks. Julia, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Mbayuri. Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Good morning to everyone. I'm Julia Zaikowski. I'm a Senior Protection Officer with Unhcr Indonesia. And on behalf of our representative, Anne Mayman, I want to thank especially the organizers, Mbayuri and the colleagues at CRS for bringing us together today. Also, a big thank you to Rachel and Ria and the team at Talent Beyond Boundaries for providing this opportunity and for all the intensive collaboration and support. But most of all, I want to thank our refugee participants for your time today and your willingness to learn more about an opportunity that has a lot of potential. This project is really about solutions for refugees, which is, of course, what all of us in this room want and what we are all collectively working for. And, you know, for most of the history of UNHCR, when we talk about solutions, we're talking about, you know, three alternatives. And these are voluntary repatriation, if the conditions allow refugees to return home safely, or integration in the host country of asylum, if the national laws allow, and resettlement, a third country solution, which, as we all know, is extremely limited. Because resettlement countries don't have an obligation to offer it. So, you know, this project, again, it's about solutions, but it's an effort to stretch this framework a bit and expand the thinking and the opportunities for solutions from a different perspective, looking at it from a labor and employment perspective. And in a way, it's a very simple idea. Refugees have skills that are in demand in other countries. And at the same time, refugees are in need of third country solutions. And if we match them up, we can solve two issues at the same time. But it's actually a huge shift in how we look at third country solutions. It is different from resettlement in some really important ways. You know, when we talk about resettlement, we know that the resettlement countries make all the decisions and set all the rules, which they do based on various factors, humanitarian policy, political considerations, and others. And there's very little room in that process for other actors, including UNHCR. As much as we work to pressure and encourage states to do more, there's very little room to influence that process, and very little room for refugees to participate or to influence the process as well. So, you know, as much as we are very grateful for resettlement countries for those opportunities, we all have to recognize that it will never be enough. And we are in most ways stuck with what resettlement countries are willing to give. So this framework that we're going to talk more about today for labor mobility really shifts the power balance just a little bit. It recognizes that refugees are a resource. Refugees have skills and experience and education, which means that they can contribute where contributions are needed. And it also recognizes that there are other actors and some powerful economic forces at work. And it brings some power back to refugees as participating in this solution process. So, you know, as you hear more about this program today, and as you understand more about how it works, you'll also realize that it has potential to improve the situation for refugees in Indonesia as well, because this shift in understanding from viewing refugees solely as beneficiaries to really understanding that refugees are a resource with potential to contribute. It's a very important piece of the work that all of us are doing to advocate here in Indonesia for access to livelihoods, opportunities, and work rights. Because we can show that gaining skills, education, and experience in Indonesia will not only help refugees to contribute to Indonesian society and economy, but would also help to increase access to solutions outside of Indonesia. So it's just a very concrete demonstration that, you know, doing everything you can here and now to improve your skills and education and gain experience while you're in Indonesia can not only improve your situation now, but also open doors in the future. So to make this work, of course, you need partners who are willing and able to make this journey. We are very fortunate to have this excellent partnership with CRS and with Talent Beyond Boundaries. And we're very fortunate to have all of you, a labor force of refugees who are willing to learn more and give it a try and maybe take a risk on an opportunity. So I thank you all again for your willingness to learn more about this. And then of course you just need a little bit of opportunity, which we now have this year. We're starting small, and Indonesia is a kind of a test. But it's a first step and an exploration to see if this can work and if refugees can benefit. So if we work together and we can show that it succeeds, we very much hope that there'll be more potential to expand and to benefit more refugees in Indonesia and also other countries, other host countries around the world. So with that, I'll just thank you again for all of you for your time this morning, most especially to the partners and facilitators. And back over to you, Bayuri. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia, for the great welcoming remarks, opening remarks. I agree with you. This is a very hopeful project, hopefully for everyone, including the refugee community. Next, I would like to ask for a welcoming remark from CRS. If Ibu Yeni is here, please, you can give us the remarks. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Yeni Suryani and I'm country manager for Catholic Relief Service in Indonesia. I'm also very happy to join you today to hear more about this program with TBB. And to be honest, this kind of strategy and program for the refugees is also quite new to CRS. We've been working with Unhcr in Indonesia since 2018 to support the refugee as best as we could in Indonesia. But I think this strategy and opportunity for refugee also provide more that TBB would like to provide support to the refugee. There's also opportunity for the refugee to grow and learn, just like Ibu Julia just mentioned. So I would not take much time saying welcome, but really welcome to this webinar. And CRS is always be here to support if you need, and we're happy to continue our support to refugees and to continue our partnership with Unhcr this year and also next year. So we will be able to continue the support also to refugees should CBB or other partners are willing to extend the support for more opportunity for the refugee in Indonesia. So please enjoy this webinar, and I hope that we all will get more knowledge and information from TBB, from CRS, and also from Unhcr. Thank you so much, Bayuri, and thank you, Ibu Julia. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Bu Yeni, and thank you so much for your support throughout this whole project from the beginning that can make the webinar today possible. Next, last but not least, our lovely person that has made everything possible. It is Rachel Beck from Talent Beyond Boundaries that will give us the welcoming remark today. Please, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Yuri, and hi, everybody. I will also welcome you to this webinar and express my appreciation to all of you, especially our colleagues at CRS and Unhcr. I am from Talent Beyond Boundaries. I'm calling in today from Australia, where I'm based, but we are a global organization. So you'll find that we are in many different countries around the world. I wanted just to give you a little bit of context on TBB, as we call Talent Beyond Boundaries. As an organization, we're about 5 years old, and we were founded as a response to the Syrian refugee crisis. So the majority of the people we have worked with are Syrian refugees, not entirely, but the majority. And the work that we've done has proved to be such an important contribution to this space, as Julia beautifully said, this work in expanding another option for refugees, that we really want to engage more populations in different parts of the world. And that's why we're with you today. We haven't worked in Indonesia before, and we would not be able to do so without CRS, Unhcr, and all of you and your interest and commitment to exploring this option. So we are also on this journey with you. We're very eager to see if we can expand the solutions available to you in the same way that we have done in other parts of the world. And we hope also that you will share your feedback with us and your thoughts so that we can continue to learn and evolve and do the best possible job for you. I'll stop there. Yuri will take you through a very detailed presentation, but my colleague Ria and I are here to help answer questions. We're very keen to hear your insights, and we are committed to keeping this conversation going. So I'll stop there for now, but I may see you again later. Thanks again to all of you and welcome.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We will see Rachel throughout the webinar. She will help us answer the questions and also everything that you might wonder ever since you register or you hear about the Talent Beyond Boundaries. Without further ado, we can go on to the presentation. Okay. Okay. Today we will talk about what Talent Beyond Boundaries is, 101, and how to register to Talent Catalog. Today's agenda, we already went through opening remarks by Unhcr, CRS, Talent Beyond Boundaries, and now we are doing the presentation, and later the demonstration of how to register to Talent Catalog, followed by Q&A sessions. There is a lot of some regulations throughout this webinar. The first is the webinar, because I've also read some questions in the Q&A asking for translation. So I would like to clarify that this webinar is only in English, and there will be no either written or verbal translation to other languages. The attendees are not able to unmute and to turn on the video throughout the webinar, also to use the chat room. However, you can always type your questions in the Q&A room down in the left, and we will answer that through during the Q&A sessions. But throughout the presentation, you can always type it. You don't have to wait until the presentation is over until you want to answer or to ask any kind of questions. Okay. First is, what is Talent Beyond Boundaries? Talent Beyond Boundaries is the first organization in the world to focus on pioneering labor mobility as a complementary solution to the traditional humanitarian resettlement. As Rachel has mentioned earlier a little bit, that this is first founded because of the Syrian crisis, but now it has expanded even in Asia Pacific, including now it's one of the first projects is Indonesia in Asia Pacific. Why do they do what they do? Because they believe that refugees are doctors, engineers, skilled trade workers, and more. Yet they find themselves in countries where they don't have the right to work locally and are locked out of international skilled migration system. Talent Beyond Boundaries are creating safe, legal pathways that enable displaced people, including the refugees, to move for work, resume their careers in the host country, not in the host country, but in the third country, as we like to refer it in Indonesia's context, and rebuild their lives with dignity. Okay. More than 300 refugees and displaced people have secured pathways to durable solutions in Australia, Canada, and the UK through Talent Beyond Boundaries. This includes skilled workers and their family members. Now we will talk more about family members because it has different definition in each country, Australia, Canada, and the UK. But in summary, the immediate family members like partners and children are they come with you if you get selected. Talent Catalog is where you can register yourself if you want to be part of this project. Refugees can sign up to the TBB Talent Catalog, and then TBB will refer the CVs of the candidates, which are you, to the employers in Australia, Canada, and the UK, and also the US, who may be interested in your skills. If an employer is willing to issue a job offer, TBB can assist with the visa and relocation process. So imagine Talent Catalog like a LinkedIn. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with LinkedIn. Imagine that Talent Catalog is like LinkedIn, but for refugees. So it's only for you. I cannot register. I cannot register, even though you will see me try to register later, but in my tryout registration, I say that I'm from Syria. When I try to type that I'm from Indonesia, I was automatically rejected by the website, by the Talent Catalog. So imagine a LinkedIn, but only for you, for your chance to rebuild your life in Australia in this matter. So you put your CV there, you upload your certificates, if any, and then you fill in the information, and fingers crossed, employers will contact you through the TBB, and then you go through the regular job application, interview, CV, something like that. So it's like it's between you and the employer, but then TBB facilitates, and now with CRS to throughout the process to some extent. Okay, the requirement is general. The candidates generally need a functional level of English, minimum Ielts, which is particularly low for, in Australia's context, 450 Ielts, but it doesn't mean you have to have official Ielts certificate right now when you want to register. This is just like a threshold. If you think that you have a functional level of English, I say go for it. You should register. And a professional or trade qualification, and or 2 years of experience in a skilled occupation. This is, again, only a threshold. It doesn't mean that if you have previous working experience less than 2 years, then you cannot register. Okay, these are the list of high demand jobs based on the experience that TBB had so far. Construction and engineering jobs, finance and professional services, healthcare, technology. It expands from software engineer, web developer, skilled trades such as butchers, welders, mechanics, chefs too, and veterinary services. There is a note: candidates are welcome to register on the Talent Catalog, even if they are not in these high demand areas. Okay. Now we're talking about Australia's skilled refugee pilot. That is what we are doing right now, what we've been doing with Talent Beyond Boundaries and Unhcr Indonesia. Here in Indonesia, this year it's still a pilot project, it's a test project, but we're hoping that this will benefit to you, and we will see how and where this will bring us. This is something that I take strictly from the Talent Beyond Boundaries presentation. Talent Beyond Boundaries in Indonesia's context is that how can candidates access the skilled refugee pilot? It's here. So this is a specific requirement for Indonesia. Before, I showed you the general requirement for everyone, not only refugees in Indonesia, but this is for Indonesia's context for you. So you must be endorsed by Talent Catalog, meaning that you have to register, you have to go through their process. If for now someone from Australia wants to employ you, but then it's because you applied to them directly. It's not that you applied to TBB and then it's not through TBB, then we cannot support you with that. Unfortunately, you have to do it by yourself. Must have a job offer in one of the listed occupation. Must have functional English, it's the same, 450 or 4.5. Must be under 50 years of age. This is in Australia, a skilled refugee pilot project. And must notify TBB if unable to secure a passport or police check or have exit issues. This is only when you already get the job offer. Who is eligible for TBB endorsement? It's the same. You are a refugee where you are displaced and unable to return, and you do not currently have another solution such as citizenship in another country. There is the type of employer nomination here, which generally means that it is the employer that will sponsor you if you get job offer. Okay, these are some of the frequently asked questions that the TBB received throughout the years during they're doing the project. But also there is some of them that I have obtained, the questions I have obtained ever since we launched this, we announced this project to the community. And we will just give you the answers right now. But if you still have like elaborate questions about it, feel free, like really free to type it in the Q&A. The first one is, registering on the talent catalog does not guarantee you a job. Like I said, it's like LinkedIn. You put out your CV or put out your profile, you say what you're capable of, you tailor it as great as possible, and hopefully, an employer will message you. Well, just that's a little bit different with TBB. In TBB, it's not that employer will message you directly, but TBB will inform you if an employer is interested. But the concept is similar. And the second one, you should enter as much information as possible into your talent catalog profile and keep it up to date. This means that, let's say you apply for a welder job. It should not be enough that you say that you're a welder from this year to that year, but you should also explain what skills do you possess, what skills do you have, what knowledge do you obtain throughout the process, and what is your specialty? Because, okay, you're a welder, but what are you so good at it? So it's selling yourself, actually, like a regular job hunting. Like, it's like when you apply for a job, you really sell yourself you tailor your profile. The more it's selling, the better it is. You do not need passports to register on the talent catalog, of course. TBB will only contact you if there is a job opportunity that matches the skills and expertise you describe in your profile. Given the limited resources, TBB can only get in contact with candidates who have skills that are matched to a job opportunity. And in this context, it's TBB and CRS. So let's say 100 of you registered, but unfortunately, we will not reach you one by one to inform the process. Only those who matches the skills, and if there is, only those who are picked by the employers, whom employer feel like they want to interview or they want to go through the next step. Like regular job application, right? When you apply for a job and you wait for the HR, the human resource to wanting you, or the head of the company, you will not, ask them. You will not ask them to give you any information. How is my process? No, it's not like that. Okay. But you will, like, finger cross, and also to keep it up to date, like the one here. Keep it up to date. If you submit your profile now, and then tomorrow or the next week you feel like, I think I still missed something, like I think there is still something that I want to add, that's highly okay. Like, you should do it. It's you can you can always update the profile. It's not like when you send CV to HR, and then you can only hope for that. No, you can always update here in the talent catalog. And next is, okay, the primary visa applicant can bring their spouse or their de facto partner, as well as dependent children when accessing visa programs supported by TBB. Skilled visa programs generally do not allow you to include parents or siblings. So this is especially in the Australia's context. Australia defines family as immediate family, partners and children. So unfortunately, this is something you should consider too when you apply, or you apply and then somebody from the company offer you a job, and then this is something you should consider, because you will not be able to bring parents or siblings. What if you're a single man or woman with big families? Then you will have to live alone. Talent Beyond Boundaries does not select candidates for international employment. Rather, we facilitate matches between candidates and potential employer. A decision about whether to hire someone is always made independently by the employer. Not Talent Beyond Boundaries, not CRS has any power to choose candidates. And I don't think any company will give us the trust to choose someone for the job that we really don't understand. Like, for example, it is impossible for a company in Australia that is looking for a welder to trust me to pick welders from the refugee community. That's just unlikely. So it is only and only the employer's decision. We only facilitate the matches between candidate and potential employers in this context for Talent Beyond Boundaries. And TBB connect qualified candidates regardless of vulnerability with employers seeking their skill sets. This is very important, especially in Indonesia's context, and also other parts of the world, I suppose. This is very different with humanitarian visa, with humanitarian resettlement. We do not, the employers, TBB, of course, do not consider vulnerability. They will treat you like a regular job applicant. So it is only solely based on your skills and your willingness, not vulnerability. A functional level of English proficiency is essential to secure a work visa in an English-speaking country. However, if you are not proficient yet, because you can always learn English, TBB invites you to work to improve your English, and please register when you are ready. So CRS, TBB, we do not facilitate English lesson capacity building. There is always resource you can find on TBB website, of course, but in general, we can say that please work to improve your English, because I've known that you are great people. I know some of you who did not speak English even for a word when the time you arrive here, and now 2-3 years you talk like a native speaker. So it's possible. Maybe if you're interested in this project and you have great working experience and you think you want to apply, but you feel like I don't have the English skills that is sufficient right now, maybe this can be a motivation for you, you start studying English right now and you will apply when you are ready, because this will always open, I think. I don't know about, like the Indonesia's pilot project is different, but generally TBB always opens opportunity for refugees throughout the world. Humanitarian resettlement and TBB pathway do not interfere with each other. This means that, because I have received these questions from some of you, I am already in process of the resettlement, but can I still apply for TBB? Or if I apply for TBB, will it minimize my opportunity to get resettlement? We would like to emphasize that humanitarian resettlement and TBB pathway do not interfere with each other. And since like Julia has, and also Rachel has mentioned in the beginning, the opportunity for military settlement is getting smaller, and it's the country's decision. So I say just apply for both. Just try as many opportunities, try as you can, and see how it goes. Indonesia's context. I get this a lot of this about these questions from the refugees, especially Afghans who registered at UNHCR after July 2014 for humanitarian resettlement. They are not eligible for humanitarian resettlement, right? Or if they have relatives in Australia, well, through this visa, it is possible for you. If you not a refugee, Afghan, register at UNHCR after July 2014, or you have relatives in Australia, you can register to this opportunity. Why is that? Because this is actually a special skilled visa, an agreement between TBB and Australia. So it's different with the skilled visa, the regular skilled visa, humanitarian resettlement, humanitarian visa that you have, I'm sure you have known a lot about it. This is different. You can look to the details of what I just said in this Australian government's website, where they specifically say about their agreement with TBB. This is the link to the website, to the information, and I can type it in the question and answer later for you to access. Okay. And now it's Q&A sessions. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so many have been answered by the panelists. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Ria. Okay, I think it would be great if we have time, we will read the answers so it will be clearer for you. But for now on, for the questions that we have not been answered, let me see. How can I apply for this visa? It's through TBB. Okay, all have been answered actually. Okay, I will try to answer questions from Mansur Habibi. Hi, I'm a power electrician at the power plant, and my wife has also accounting expert and a degree in insurance management. Great. We have been here for 2 years and our interview has not been answered yet. The incident also applies to us. Well, now there is a new opportunity. From what you stated here, you have a great working experience, and both of you should apply. Because I have also received questions from a refugee saying that my sister wants to apply. I also want to apply. Should we apply as a family or should we apply individually? And then I say to her, please apply individually because this is a job opportunity first. So this is a job opportunity. So when you apply for a job, it's not that your opportunity will be less just because your other sibling is applying. And please take a look at it in a different way with humanitarian resettlement process. Because I know that in humanitarian resettlement, you are considered one case. There is something regarding case number. If you are older than this, then you should apply for yourself, and you are considered as one unit. That's not the case in TBB. Even in TBB, if your case is rejected, or if you don't even have case number, then you can apply as long as you consider yourself displaced people, actually. So this is if 4 members in your family have skills, 4 of them should apply. You should fight for yourself. And then if one of you or even 2 of you get selected, because there is a story like that, which I will show the video right now from the Talent Beyond Boundaries YouTube. There's a story about a sibling who left, who got selected through the TBB, and then the brother also got selected, but I think through individual, even different type of job. Okay. Thank you so much. Before we jump to the video, I want to say thank you so much for Rachel, Ria, and others that have answered all the questions. So many questions in the question and answer while I was presenting. Do you have something to add, Rachel and Ria, before we continue?
Just to say thank you for all the questions. It really is so engaging, and it's a great experience to know that everyone is so invested in the conversation. Ria and I are responding. I would encourage you also to look in the questions that are already answered, because there are certain themes that are coming up repeatedly. Are we eligible for this program? Being probably the main one. In general, yes, you should register to the Talent Catalog, sign up. As Yuri said, it's a little bit like LinkedIn. There's no harm in doing it. You're making yourself visible to employers. Now, if you aren't selected for an interview, there's no role that's a good fit for you, you won't hear back. We have about 30,000 candidates in our database. So you need to be realistic about what the likelihood is. We don't want to raise anybody's expectations artificially, but there is only gain to be had here. There is only an upside that an employer may match you to an opportunity, and there may be an option here for you. We also hope for everybody who participates in our program that it's a good experience that will help prepare you to apply for jobs in other places if necessary, that you get some experience in describing your own skills, that you have maybe a CV that you're able to share with others, that you have some motivation perhaps to work on language skills if that's needed. So we're not here to waste your time. It's good to be realistic. If you really don't have English skills, for example, this is not the program for you. If you think you can get to that level, you think you have skills that would make you appealing to an employer, we say go for it. Go ahead and sign up in the catalog and use this as an opportunity. I'll stop there. We'll go back to answering questions in the chat, but I think we'll reconvene a bit later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Anything from Unhcr's part, Julia or Muaz?
Thanks very much, Yuri. I'm just looking through the questions, and maybe you can help me identify if there's anything specifically. I do see lots of questions about sort of the differences between the resettlement process and this opportunity, which I think you've been able to clarify quite well. So I don't have anything to add on that side. But maybe over to my colleague Muaz. Thanks very much. If there's anything in addition from your side that you see to respond to some of the questions. Of course, any questions about individual cases we would take up separately directly with refugees and with families. But over to you, Muaz, if you have anything else to add in response to some questions. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Julia, very much. I'm looking at the questions as well. But I want to say thank you, Yuri, for the great presentation. You answered all questions maybe could somebody think of, I think. That was very good. I saw one question, somebody requesting translation in Arabic. I just want to say for this particular program, you need proficiency in English. That's one thing. And I see here in the attendance, we have also refugee representatives. So please get in touch with them because they know about the program and they will be able to answer your questions. I'm still going through the questions and we'll provide answers. And for those who have individual cases, we will contact them separately, but please, this platform is not to discuss individual cases. Let's focus on this particular program. You can reach us through other channels. That's all. Over to you, Yuri.
Thank you so much, Julia and Muaz. We are going to the so the next agenda is demonstration on how to register the Talent Catalog. But for now, we'll share some videos, 2 videos from the YouTube channel of Talent Beyond Boundaries. You can always access the website. You can also access the Facebook. Yes, they have Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, where you can see some videos that can explain more about this project.
But sorry, if I may just say it in Arabic for those who requested Arabic translation.
Sure.
اللي بدهم ترجمة بالعربي رجاء يتواصلوا مع الممثلين اللاجئين لأنهم عندهم معلومات عن البرنامج وممكن يشرحوا لكم إياه. ولكن لهذا البرنامج مطلوب منك تكون بتحكي لغة إنجليزية مشان تكون يكون لك فرصة بهذا البرنامج أولاً. ولكن الممثلين اللاجئين ممكن يشرحوا لكم أكثر. تواصلوا معهم. شكراً لكم. Back to you, Yuri. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Shukran, Huas. That's the only Arabic word I know.
Yes, you said it perfectly.
Thank you. Okay. Can anyone see Can anyone see it clearly? I think that's a yes.
Yes.
Yes. Before the war, when I was in Syria, I don't have big goals, just stable life with my family and improve my IT skills.
And then everything happened suddenly.
Refugees in Jordan and Lebanon are not allowed to work legally, and as a mechanical engineer I wasn't allowed to have a work permit to work in Jordan.
My dream is cancelled now because of the war.
All the doors were locked actually. There is no life at all.
I just read about TBB. I like the idea. I decided to give it a shot.
When I interviewed Anas, I could tell from talking to him that he had a strong engineering background. I thought, he is going to fit in.
I thought at first it's joking.
I don't think he really believed that I was saying I want to hire you and bring you to Canada.
We've had a fantastic opportunity to recruit Khalif, who has both the skill set and capability to fill roles which we find really, really difficult to fill. In terms of the process we went through, it was very robust. We treated the TBB candidates exactly the same as all candidates.
The day when I learned that I got offer, it's like someone in deep wall and you throw rope for him. We will always memorize these moments.
My first day,
didn't matter what we gave him, he did it, and he did it without any effort whatsoever.
It was awesome. Awesome day.
Right now in Australia, there's a boom in infrastructure projects. There's a huge need to find an unprecedented number of skilled people. We started talking to Talent Beyond Boundaries and we were amazed at the skill of the people that they put forward.
I used to work as a mechanical design engineer, designing wastewater treatment plants and water-related projects.
We interviewed Ibrahim and the leaders of our project said, of course, yeah, how quick can we get him?
When the plane landed in airport, like one of the best moments in my life.
He started work a week later after he'd settled in. It couldn't have been any smoother.
I'm now finally able to work legally in my profession. But now I can support myself and also my family.
Since I came into Canada, everything changed. I feel like I'm born again. I will not worry about my son's future anymore.
It's so exciting. By my work, I can help Canada to improve. I hope all government help TBB to help us.
We need policies to support that. We need doorways to be open.
We need new skills in this country.
When you add to that the knowledge that we're actually changing somebody's life, it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't we?
I'm just trying to play the second video. So there is two things that we would like to highlight from the, inspired by the video is first, if you see that the second video tells story about a butcher, refugee is a butcher. And this shows you that it's not always the job that is highly, needs a master degree, vocational degree from reputable universities to be able to apply for this. No, they also need highly skilled people like butchers, welders, who doesn't always require university degree. What we are trying to say is what matters is your previous working experiences actually. And talking about university degree, maybe some of you have questions. The second thing is some of you maybe have questions. What if, okay, I graduated from university or I have previous working experiences, but how can I prove it? I have lost all my documentations, including my degree certificate. Some of you who have tried to apply, you will see that TBB does not require you to upload any kind of certification. If you have it, that's great, but it's optional because TBB understands your circumstances, and you can always, if you get selected to the job offer, you can always try to prove it during the interview. Like you said, if you watch all the videos on YouTube, on the YouTube channel of Talon Beyond Boundaries, as I have done, you will see that an employer said he can see that this person is really, the person that he chose is really qualified only through interview, because you cannot make up interview. They will ask you very specific questions that only experienced people can answer actually. So you don't have to worry about it. And last thing I would like to address before we move on to the talent catalog is we really strongly encourage you to focus only on your applications. You don't need to worry if, because this worrisome I received 2 weeks ago. I visited Cisarua to have some offline sharing session with interpreters and teachers in Cisarua, and many of you have worries about the visa process, who will pay for it, so on. And as a job applicant, all you need to worry is actually only your job applications. Make it as you have to sell yourself as great as possible, put as many information, and leave the rest to us actually, to the TBB. Okay, now let's move on to the talent catalog.
Yuri, may I jump in for a second? Hello?
Sure,
okay.
Of course.
All right, because Julia has to leave in a moment. So probably she could kindly answer some of the questions here. I see some interesting questions. Maybe this one from Humaira. It says, what if someone's case already cleared for resettlement in a specific country, for example, Canada? Can she still apply? I would like to invite Julia if you would like to comment on this question.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Moaz, and that's a really important question. And I think, you know, as has been clearly stated, the resettlement process is a very separate, distinct process from this TBB channel, and they should not necessarily interfere with each other. But if you're already in resettlement process, I think it would be important to consult with the UNHCR colleagues to really understand, you know, exactly where you and your family are in that process, and, you know, time frame for that process as well, to be able to make your decision, you know, if you want to continue with a TBB related process. But I think in the early stages, as Mbayuri and colleagues have mentioned, you know, you go ahead, right? I mean, give it a try, register and see what happens. And then it's sort of like to understand once, you know, maybe once the process with TBB could be a little bit further advanced to look at how it could interplay with any resettlement processing. I don't know if that answers, but I think at this stage, you know, definitely learn more about it. If you're willing to give it a try, register, and then get some advice on how it could potentially impact your resettlement case, depending on where it is in the process. I don't know if Moaz, if you have anything to add to that. Yeah, I think each case is going to be different, but I don't think it should stop you from trying for this opportunity.
Thank you, Julia. If I just may stress one point is that for resettlement, we are as keen as you are. So we want to resettle you. We want to see you having better opportunities in somewhere else in the world. So it's very important to be transparent with us and tell us your situation. If you have other applications, for example, a private sponsorship or education scholarship or other complementary pathways, and be sure we will give you the right advice, because sometimes some more details would make a difference. And if we know, we will certainly give you only the right advice for the best interest for your case. So please be transparent with us and let us know, and we will do our best to help you. If I may pick up a few questions, and so Humaira also is asking question, if someone applies and the application is approved, does she start working after getting resettlement in the country of employer, or he can directly start working in Indonesia and wait for getting the visa to move to a third country? Would you like Yuri to comment on this question? Or Rachel?
I'm sorry, Moaz, could you please repeat I lost a little bit of.
All right, so the question is saying if someone applies and the application is approved, does she or he start working after getting resettlement? I'm reading the question as it is. In the country of employer, or he can directly work in Indonesia. So I think the question is about if they can work in Indonesia once they are approved or not.
Yeah, let me take this one if that's okay, Yuri.
Sure.
And I have put that in the chat. I was just looking for my own response at some point. So in theory, you can start working while you're still in Indonesia. We have had this happen because sometimes a visa can take quite a while to process, especially because of COVID. So we have had people start working where they are, especially if it's a tech job or something else that can be done remotely. But in general, candidates start working once they have moved, once they've relocated, because the entire point of the program is to support people to get to a country where they have a durable solution. This is not an economic empowerment program where we are trying to generate work opportunities where you are. This is a program where we're trying to get you to a country where you can plan your future safely for the long term. So it's probably best to assume no, but also just to know in some circumstances it has happened. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, perfect sense. Thank you, Rachel. And maybe just last two questions from M. Tahseen. He's saying, is there any condition with the initial employer? Needs to work with that employer at least 5 years. I think it's about years of experience, the question, if there is any condition on that.
There is no formal condition. A few people have asked about this. You do need some work experience because otherwise you can't convince an employer that you're the right person for them to hire. Remember, employers are looking for somebody who's going to do well in their company, right? So you need to be able to show them that that is possible. Sometimes we've had candidates who work in tech and an employer will give them a test because they do coding, for example. So they want to see if you really understand whatever computer language they need. Sometimes it's just a matter of a long conversation. Employers understand the kind of people who work with them, right? They want to see if you understand the tools, you have the right vocabulary, if your English skills are at the level they need. So they're the ones who are best able to determine if you are a good fit. There's no official amount of work experience that's required, but if you have no work experience, that very likely means that you will not be able to prove to an employer that you're a good fit. However, don't worry about having it be work experience in a formal job. It's okay if it's informal employment. We understand that many refugees do not have work rights where they are. The important thing is that you can describe what you did, and then we may come to you and say, is there somebody you worked with? You can provide a reference. We have different ways of helping an employer understand who you are, but you do need to have some work experience to be a good candidate.
Thank you, Rachel. Maybe last question from Shahla, I think. My children never had work experience. Is that okay? I know this has been answered, but maybe for clarification.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So again, no, but just to point out, if your children are coming with you, that's fine, or your partner, because then they come with you as a dependent. But your children, from the sounds of it, would not be eligible to participate in the program as a primary applicant, as the person who's getting the job.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just tried to pick up some of the questions. Over to you, Yuri. Thank you very much, Rachel.
We'll keep answering in the chat box. There were one or two I didn't fully understand, so I might ask for clarification, or you can also respond and tell me if I've misunderstood. And I know Ria is doing the same.
Great, thank you so much, Muaz and Rachel. It reminds me of some of the questions unanswered that I have received from the community too, through WhatsApp, not through this, but this is, I think, many of the community asked. The first is about the contract. Maybe Rachel or Ria can give us, maybe based on experience, or maybe there is some similar pattern. If you get selected and then you depart, how many years, is there any contract? How many years will they be able to work in the company?
Yes, so every situation is different, but you are entering into employment with no end date. This is not a temporary work program. And in every country where we are, we need to have a pathway to permanence. So in general, we try to move candidates on permanent visas. Sometimes it's not possible and there needs to be a temporary visa while we finalize the paperwork. As I'm sure you know better than me, these processes are very complicated and very bureaucratic. But this is not a temporary work permit program. This is a permanent solution. You would be able to work with the company if you do well, as long as you like. And because we are looking for candidates who have skills that are in demand in the country where you're going, you, just like anybody else, can look for another job if you prefer. Our process is quite intensive, and we really get to know candidates. The employers get to know candidates. So I would say in general, people stay with their employers and their employers stay with them, because there's a strong positive feeling that comes out of that process. But if something happens, usually our candidates are able to find another job very quickly, because the entire idea is that you have a skill set that employers in that country want.
Thank you so much, Rachel. My last question is regarding a company. This comes from a teacher. He asked me, can company in Australia register to TBB, and what is the requirement?
Yeah, great.
Company. Yeah.
Yes, so the company can reach out to us. That is wonderful, because what we do at TBB is we work with people such as yourself to register in the talent catalog, but then at the same time, a different part of TBB is talking to employers in Australia, Canada, and the UK, and we're hoping to go into more countries also next year, and in the future. So it would be very valuable for us to know about a company in Australia that's interested in hiring. And we have had this happen before, where a candidate and a company find each other, not through TBB, but then come to us to finalize the process. In fact, for this particular visa program, we have 100 places available in Australia over a 2-year period. That's the program we're talking about that has been particularly specially agreed between TBB and the government of Australia. It is a requirement of this program that a candidate must be registered in the talent catalog. So to use this program, you have to sign up to the database. Even if you find the employer on your own, they want to hire you, there may be other ways they can do that through sort of regular skilled migration programs. But to use one of these 100 visas, you have to come through TBB. So reach out to us, let us know what the situation is, and who the employer is and how we can follow up.
Thank you so much, Rachel. This clears a lot about the process after the job offer. But then we will still be talking. We still need to be talking about the talent catalog, which is, the thing that I think you should really focus on, like the refugee community. But it's a great question. If you know companies in Australia, and you should really encourage them to contact TBB, or you can contact us, and we can connect to we can reach TBB about it. I'm just
Yuri, I'm sorry, I forgot to say the most important thing, which is how anybody would do that. So if you go to our website, and I think we'll be doing this in the next part, so just talentbeyondboundaries.org, I can put it in the chat as well. The first thing you'll see is a choice. You can either click on a button that says for job seekers, that's you, or for employers. So if you know a company in Australia that's interested, all they have to do is go to our website, click on that button, it will take them to a form, and they can reach us that way. So that is the way you would do it.
Great, thank you so much, Rachel. Before we move on to the talent catalog, I'm trying to answer some of your questions. The first is about if there is any deadline. If there's any deadline, if there's any limit, regarding the timetable. And we say that there is no deadline. We encourage you to apply as early as possible, because the process is already rolling in. The process, if you get selected, then if you get matched to have a job opportunity for interview, then the process already rolling in. So we really strongly encourage you to apply as early as possible, even though there is no actually strict deadline. Well, you can consider the 100 quotas. If you want to be part of that, then you should apply as early as possible. The second is, is the recording of this webinar available? Yes, you will be able to find it later on the Talent Beyond Boundaries YouTube channel that we will share the link in the Q&A portion. Okay, and I also see a lot of confusion maybe, or wondering in the Q&A regarding work experience. I don't have a lot of work experience. Is this part of work experience or not? I just want to say that work experience it's actually a very big thing. So that's why we encourage you to put as much information as possible. It will not give anybody harm, right? If you put as much information as possible. And working experience sometimes does not only mean that if you have work experiences, it's also counted, right, Rachel? In Indonesia, it's not. It doesn't have to be from where you live.
Absolutely not. So I was just about to answer a question about volunteer experience, and you're right, this is coming up a lot. So the important thing is to have some. It doesn't matter what country it's in. It doesn't matter if it's paid or not paid, if it's formal or informal. The important thing is that you have skilled work experience. So I'm trying to think of an example of what would be non-skilled, but manual labor, for example, that is not enough to persuade an employer that they should look outside Australia. It needs to have some level of specialization. Now, there are some questions in the chat as well about specific areas. My skills are in this area, this area, this area. In general, I'm just going to say, sign up. The reality is that some industries are in much more demand than others. So I see somebody here who is a skilled jewelry maker. That could happen, absolutely. I would have to check and see if it's included under Australia, the UK, or Canada's program. It might not be, that's another issue. But the bigger problem is that that's not an area where we see a lot of demand from employers. But it's possible. I've been amazed at the types of professions that employers are not able to recruit locally. So I really want to encourage you, go ahead and sign up. And we will follow up on our side to see if it's a fit, but it does not hurt you and it will support you in your process of learning how to present yourself.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Rachel. We can move on now to the next part, which is how to register to Talent Catalog. I'm just going to share the PDF that you can actually find when you register, right? When you register in the Talent Catalog, they will also put this link to the PDF, but we will also show you. And I have also shared this to the community. Some of you may have already had it with you, some of you have not. We can share it again if you want. Later on, I will share you the phone number that you can contact through WhatsApp if you have any questions regarding the Talent Beyond Boundaries, including, the link to anything that you want to. Okay. Well, first of all, this is a very simple process. I can say that because I have also tried to register. It's like you register on Facebook or on LinkedIn. It's very simple, it's very clear, and there's not a lot of information or questions that they ask actually. First you go to the Talent Catalog. You have to go to the website of Talent Beyond Boundaries, and then there you can find a button where you can click to so you can register to Talent Catalog. And also we have also shared to you the link that can get you strictly to the Talent Catalog. We can always share that again later. The first is they will ask you to enter your contact information, email, phone. We strongly encourage you to fill everything, even though phone number, for example, is not required. But if you have, please do so, because the more information you give, the better. And then enter your occupation. But also here, sorry, in the first contact information, when I try to register, they ask for UN case number or UNRWA number, which is not required. But if you have, which I am sure most refugees here have the case number, please fill that information, because that will make us easier to reach you. Okay. And enter your occupation. They have already have some kind of classification of what is the main field that you have skills. This doesn't, main skills is the type of job you want to apply, not the narrative of the working experience. So you can pick one. I don't know if you have answered this, Rachel, but I did see a question about from a refugee asking that his previous work experience is not part of, does not exist in this column. What to do about it?
Yeah, so that was an interesting one. I was looking at either a similar question or the same one. I would try to find the one that fits the best. You should understand that at TBB, we are very open. So we understand that people have unusual skill sets, that things don't always fit. In fact, sometimes we work with people who are still inside their country of origin because they're stateless, for example. So we really take a very broad definition to things. Choose the one that fits best and then add more information. There's an additional notes section, just explain your situation. The only thing I would say is that if it doesn't match, it may be an indication, I don't know what field you're in, but if it's something very unique, that may be an indication that this is not a great fit. But just do your best, and we will say it over and over again. The most important thing is to add details, explain exactly what your skills are, what kinds of experiences you have. Don't just say, I'm an engineer. Explain to us exactly what kind of engineer you are, what tools you use, what skills you've developed through your experience.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Moving on to at your working history step. This is the most important step, because this is where you can really use narrative to sell yourself, to really explain what are you capable of, what skills, and this can clarify if you don't really have the exact main skills in the step 3, then you can choose what fits the best, what fits the closest, maybe step 3, and then you can elaborate more in the step 4. Put as much information as possible, volunteering, anything that can, that can level your application. And then step 5 is at your educational background. This is the highest level of education. You don't have to put all, just the highest one. And at your language skill, in this step, you will not be asked to input information about the concrete, like IELTS score. No, they're just going to ask you if it's full proficient, professional, or lower or higher than that. It's not native speaker. For example, if you come probably from South Africa, then South Africa is a English native speaking country. You can say it's native, or correct me if I'm wrong, Tanzania, some countries in Africa is actually native speaking, so you can say you're native speaking. But if maybe you're from like Indonesia is not native speaking country, English native speaking country, then you can say your full professional proficiency if you consider yourself R1. Okay. And step 7, at your professional certificate. This can be about the English if you have any, and also of course professional certifications regarding the job, the type of job that you would like to apply. This is optional. This is optional. This is not a mandatory. And I think this is also where you can input, or you can attach your university degree if you still have it, or if you have it. If it's mandatory, it's not mandatory. Again, it's not. But it would be good if you have and you attach it. Okay. And step 8, additional information. If you have anything you would like to add, please add here, including we advise you to put here information if you are in the process of resettlement with Unhcr, humanitarian resettlement, or if your case is rejected. So basically the status of your case regarding durable solution with Unhcr. You can put here, like Muaz said, be as transparent as possible from the very beginning. TBB does not limit, it is a very flexible opportunity for people regardless status. So basically it will not be hard for you to just late on from the very beginning you tell us what your status is, and please put it in this additional information. And then the last one is CV. Please please write your own CV and upload it here. If you don't have one, we strongly encourage you to do so, even though this is not, I don't think this is required, but we really strongly encourage you to apply. If you don't have, please make one. Now there's a lot of resources on Google, on search engine, where you can learn to write CV if you haven't made any before. And it doesn't have to be, I don't think it has to fulfill certain type of standard. Like maybe some of you would wonder, do I have to write CV that is Australia standard or European standard, or because each country, I believe, has its own standard. Just write what you know, and the most important part, I think, is the information, not the mode or the standard or the theme, but it's the information. Yeah, Rachel, do you want to add? You are still mute. Sorry.
Yes, sorry. No, that was perfect. I just responded to a message that said, can we update our profile if we develop some skills that we did not initially have? And this is so important that I really want to call it out. Yes, you are in charge of your own information. You can update your profile at any time. You can delete it. You can add more skills. You can remove some skills, I suppose. It's just like LinkedIn or Facebook. You are in charge. So absolutely, it can be something that you, start doing and then just improve and improve with time. But otherwise, I think everything you've said is spot on. And I've also put our website link into the chat, because it's pretty self-explanatory. You'll see that button that says for job seekers. And, even if you miss parts of this webinar, you can go to our website and it will take you through the process.
Great, thank you, Rachel. I will share. So I think it was 2 days ago, I tried to register. First, I tried to register as an Indonesian. And like I have shared with you, I was considered ineligible, so I cannot continue. But then I tried to change my citizenship, because this is part of the test, right? It's not that I'm going to register. I changed my nationality to Lebanon, and then I was considered eligible, and then I went throughout the process, and in the end, I got to download the summary of information that I have written in the CV form that TBB has. So it's like this. So like you can see, this is my name, and then everyone will receive a user ID because I received one here. Contact information. Please do not refer to this. This is a very incomplete one. You should, a great CV would contain a lot of information. Email, current location, Central Lebanon, copywriter. You can write more than one. Of course, you can write more than one working experience. Like I say here, I am a copywriter, but I was also a butcher co. Education, American University of Lebanon. Certification, IELTS, languages. But also, like I said again, please put as much information as possible. Okay. Okay. Yeah. If there is any questions regarding the talent catalog, you are very welcome to type it on the question and answers. And please, Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, Yuri, I just had a question. There is a pop-up that comes up. If you register, if you say you are Indonesian and your location is Indonesia, the system will notify you, just as Yuri has said. It looks like you're not eligible for this program because you're not a refugee unless you've left your country. Yuri, I'm just curious, I don't know the answer. Does it actually stop you from completing your profile, or does it just advise you?
It stopped me.
It stopped you. Okay, that's good to know. That's good feedback for me as well, because we have tried different approaches. And so I want to make sure that that is aligned with our expectations. I think for this group, this is the information that's necessary because it sounds to me like you have left your country of origin. But there are some instances where we would consider working with somebody who is inside their country of origin, for example, if they're stateless. So I will look into that a little bit for you, Yuri. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We can go back to the Q&A sessions. If Muaz or Rachel maybe wants to address some of the questions in live, that would be great. Well, I can also, filter the questions that I can answer.
Yes, sure. If you have already filtered the questions, I'm happy to answer the relevant questions. I'm also looking at the questions. Is there any particular question you would like to highlight?
It reminds me, this is regarding the technicality of talent catalog. So I will ask this to Rachel. I received a question last week regarding CV. So they cannot download the CV that, no, I'm sorry. The question was actually, how do you know your application has been received by TBB or not, including the documents that you have attached?
Yeah, so what's really important to realize is that it's not an application. And that's a word that I see coming up a lot in the questions. You're not applying for a particular job. You are just listing your profile, just like LinkedIn, just like Facebook. So our database works very well. I think if you can see it in the talent catalog, then it's there. You don't need to worry that because nobody has contacted you that it's not live, that it's not there. The issue is likely just that we have not seen an opportunity that matches your skill set. But you are always welcome to update your profile. And in fact, I would do that because the same way with LinkedIn or your CV, you want an employer to know what you've been doing. So update it with additional things that you've been working on, additional skills. I'm actively practicing my English skills. Just keep it updated. But what you see is also what we see. So you don't need to worry that something hasn't gone through properly.
Thank you, Rachel. There is also questions about salary, and I think if I may to address it first, this is exactly like when you try to apply for a job in a regular way, is that you will negotiate with the company during the job offer process, and that's after you go through the interview and everything and you got job offer. Do you want to elaborate more on that, Rachel?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you have as much power as any applicant. You can negotiate your contract in the same way that anybody would do in any country. The reason we work right now in these three countries, Australia, the UK, and Canada, is that they have strong systems in place. We will also work in other countries in the future, but these were the right countries for us to start. So there are minimum wage requirements in these countries. Sometimes they are sort of overall general minimum wage requirements, and some of them are within a specific sector. That's how it works in Australia. There are minimum wage requirements for particular professions. Everything, any employer who works with us is adhering to those requirements. So you don't need to worry that you're going to be exploited, that you would be paid less than an Australian. A condition for an employer to work with this program is that they have to comply with these laws. You should be treated the same way as somebody who's applying from Australia. But you may want to say, you know what, this job asks me to work from home and I don't have a computer. That's going to be part of my contract negotiation. Or, you know, I want to work 4 days a week. Who knows? And we would help you through that process. We might say, actually, that's not realistic. They want somebody full-time. You are not going to get anywhere trying to work 4 days a week. Or, yeah, that's reasonable. Let's work together to make a strong argument to the employer. So we support you through that process. But Yuri is right that the employer determines the salary. TBB doesn't do that. We just make sure that the employers are not exploiting anyone.
Thank you, Rachel. Another question that came up a lot is, like before the webinar, is regarding the IELTS and visa fees. Who will cover for that? And I think this can be answered both by Unhcr and TBB, because some of them also wondered if Unhcr would pay for that.
I'll certainly let UNHCR speak to that in a moment. Most of the costs for our program are paid by employers. So because employers recruit internationally anyway. So the entire idea of this program is, if you're going to recruit internationally, why not recruit refugees? Let's make refugees more visible, more accessible to international employers. So we encourage them to pay the visa fees. We encourage them to pay flights, everything else that they would pay for an international hire. Now, there are some instances where this can be a problem. Sometimes if it's a small company, maybe a candidate has a big family and an employer can't afford to bring all of them. So then we work to find another solution. And sometimes that solution is providing either a no interest or a low interest loan to a candidate. Now, Ielts tests, or let's say English tests, because there's a few different types, that sometimes falls into that category because you take the English test sometimes before you have the job offer. So an employer is not going to want to pay costs for somebody that they're not actually sure is the right fit for a job. They will only pay once they're like, yes, you are the right person. So that is a gray area. And we do work with candidates to find another solution. Sometimes we can get free tests. We have partnerships with some of the educational companies, Pearson, OET. Sometimes they can help that way. Sometimes it is a small loan. And I will turn to our UNHCR friends to speak to whether they would pay for that. I would not expect that. I would not ask that of you, Moaz, but I'll let you speak to it. Muaz, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. I think nothing more to add. Basically, you have covered it, unless you think any specific point I need to answer to.
Is there any cost that UNHCR covers for candidates? In general, my impression was no, but I'd be happy to be corrected.
Yes, I think you are perfectly right. You would know more about these technical coverages, but again, for any specific situations, we are, of course, happy to help as much as we can. But for this specific program, usually there are no costs that we do cover or we are committed to cover. I hope this clarifies.
Thank you.
What one comment, if I may add, sure. I see you have been answering to the questions. There was a question from Nashat. When they upload documents, they are not shown on their page. You have answered that. But just one general comments, please try not to put your case numbers in here publicly because it's private, it's your private information. And another thing is no need to reach to us directly explaining to us your talents because it's something UNHCR cannot control. So the process is managed by Talent Beyond Boundaries and we have no control. So if you tell me you have these talents, nothing we can do actually. And I mean, we should not intervene at the first place, but also nothing we can do. So please do the process through the website as it should be. Yeah, over to you, Yuri and Rachel.
Great, thank you so much, Muaz, and thank you, Rachel. If I may add regarding the fees, I hope that the information will not make you not want to register because maybe Rachel can share some stories from the past about if there is somebody, because I remember you told me a story about a family whose employer don't want to cover for the cost, but then you tried your best to support them, and then it's actually possible. It's actually possible.
You might be thinking of a candidate who came to Australia a few weeks ago and he has 8 children. Does that sound like the family I was describing? We just met him in the airport, so he's very top of mind for me. And yes, so he's working for a small company, not in Sydney, not in a big city, in rural Australia, where it's just a family-owned business. So they agreed to cover the relocation costs for 2 people in his family. And we're going to move the rest of his family as well. Like we don't ask people to come without their families just because they have a lot of children. But it is requiring a lot of different forms of assistance. So part of it will be a small loan at no interest through a donor. Not from TBB directly, but we can facilitate this through some of our contacts. We also have a partnership with an organization that specifically supports flights for refugees and other displaced people. It's called Miles for Migrants. People give their frequent flyer miles. And this is what they exist to do. The entire organization is just there to help, but you can't apply to them as an individual. You have to go to them as an organization. So we're able to work with our different networks, but we generally say the 2 beneficiaries of our program are employers and candidates. Those 2 groups of people are our clients. We want employers to pay most of the costs because they have more capacity. But at times we do also ask candidates to take out a small loan. The repayment terms are very understanding and generous. It's not, you won't be faced with a lot of pressure to repay as soon as you arrive. But we do recognize that candidates do benefit from this program. And so if there's no other solution, then we will ask you to take out a small loan on favorable terms. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Rachel, for the sharing. I'm just going to read some of the answers and the questions from the Q&A that needs to be highlighted. And if there is other questions or additional informations that both Rachel or Muaz wants to add, just please jump in, okay? I think this is important to highlight the question from Asim Al-Habo. Is the TBB opportunity only for high-skilled workers, or there are opportunities for those with low-skilled jobs? Second one, is there any way TBB can find other suitable job other than the one that refugee has experienced? And thanks to Ria, who had answered, there are opportunities jobs of varying skills levels, not necessarily high skill. These opportunities are based on the industries that have a local labor shortage. Sorry, and I would just like to add what I would like to ask if there is no actually a low skilled level jobs, right? Every job requires skills. No job is higher than the other. So you don't need to worry about that. Just you can see in the registration when you register if you feel the requirement, and then you see there is a job that matches you in the main skills, then you are perfect to register. Okay. And this is regarding the interview. If the candidate has been selected for a specific position, then how the interview will be? Is it competency-based interview? Every interview is different. It's up to the employer. Many of them are competency-based interviews. This is very correct. Thank you so much, Rachel. And think of it as a job application, which it is. So I believe many of you have had job interview experiences in your life, and you can see that they are all different. Some employers might ask you about not only professional skill, but also your background, and some of others only professional. Just prepare yourself as best as possible, which lead to my question that I would like to ask to Rachel. If someone gets selected to the next stage, if someone matches, if you find someone that is matched with the employers, will TBB support with the interview CV preparation? If yes, to what extent?
Absolutely. So the way the process works for TBB is that we are given from an employer a job description. And the employer will say, this is the person I'm looking to hire. Can you find some candidates? Now, in every instance, it's different. Sometimes we show a few CVs and we say, is this the kind of person you're looking for? Sometimes we actually have to advertise if it's a very specific skill set and it's something that isn't available in our database. We might come to our friends at CRS and say, can you put out the word on Facebook? We're looking for, some very technical kind of specific niche area. But the first thing we do is look in our database and we show the employer the kinds of people we have available. Is this what you're looking for? And we might show them 8 or 9 CVs and they'll say, maybe we want to interview 3 or 4 of these. So yes, at that point, absolutely, we do work with the candidates who have been identified. First of all, we have to check with you to make sure you're still interested. Your life circumstances may have changed. Perhaps you've been, sort of identified for resettlement and haven't had a chance to update your profile in the talent catalog. Maybe you've forgotten about the talent catalog. That's okay. That's why we reach out to you. And that's why it's important to have correct phone, email information in there, how you want to be contacted so we can reach you. We'll talk to you about the opportunity. We'll make sure that you want to move to this country. This program is primarily designed with Australia in mind because there's a geographical alignment with Indonesia, but it's possible somebody from Canada might say, oh, that's just the kind of person we were looking for. So we would say, are you sure you want to move to Canada? Is this something you want to pursue? And then we would talk to you more to get a sense of your English language ability. Usually our staff who talk to a lot of candidates, they're pretty good at working out what level you're at. Do you need some extra resources to practice for an English test? Maybe your English doesn't really sound like it's up to the level that you might have said it was in the talent catalog. So we would talk to you more to see why that might be the case. And then potentially we could do some mock interviews with you where we practice interviews. We often support technically. There are people who don't have access to reliable internet. So we may be able to help you find a safe place to go do your interview. Sometimes we do what's called a one-way interview where you respond to a video prompt. So it gives you an opportunity to do a recording of yourself if that would be of interest to an employer. We help facilitate perhaps a test from the employer, as I was saying earlier. Some technical employers will want that. Most don't, to be honest. Yeah, so we support you through that whole process. And when we have worked in the Middle East, we have had our own TBB team available to do that. What we're doing in Indonesia is working through CRS. So we are on standby to support, but we're working with our partners in Indonesia who are in the right time zone and understand the circumstances that you live in. To help us do that, because we don't have TBB staff on the ground in Indonesia. So that's why this model is so important for us. I hope that makes sense. I'm happy to add more detail in any area.
Thank you so much, Rachel. There is also a question regarding different, I don't exactly know the word, but you know, when you're a doctor, when you are coming from a specific skilled jobs like doctor, nurse, they usually would have different kind of certification in Australia and in Indonesia, psychologists, skilled jobs like that. How would it be in the TBB's context?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is something we are grappling with all the time. So we haven't actually placed any doctors yet, but there is a huge demand for doctors in a lot of places. So I think this will come, but it's because of this challenge with certifications. One area we do work with a lot is nurses. The issue is that you do have to be usually certified again once you move, just as you said, Yuri, like say you go to the UK, which is a place we're working with a lot of nurses because the National Health Service in England is now recruiting through TBB because they need nurses so desperately. But they often will not be able to recognize a credential from Indonesia or another country. Every case is different, but in general, this is the case. So for the NHS, they can put you on a track to take a test and become certified. That's one option, but that's a very specific partnership. In other places, what you do is honestly, you work a little bit below your skill level and you work towards certification perhaps on your own. And that can be possible. It just depends where the opportunity is. But that is something to consider. If you are a qualified nurse, maybe you have amazing skills, you worked in a hospital, you've worked with critically ill patients, would you be willing to work in maybe an aged care home with older people? Because that is an area where we see a lot of employer demand. But often we do get candidates who are overqualified. And it's very important for us to make sure they understand you will be working below your skill level. We hope that you can be certified and work at your correct skill level, but you will have to be patient. So you have to take these questions very seriously. Anybody who has any kind of nursing or care experience, I really encourage you to sign up in the talent catalog because that is an area where we see a lot of demand.
Thank you, Rachel. Regarding doctors, do you think, or have you had experience where doctors get a job, but not as doctors, but as aged care worker? And if you haven't, do you think it would be possible?
Interesting. To my knowledge, no, but I do not know every case. I would, if I saw somebody in the chat box said they were a medical doctor, go ahead and sign up. I only want to manage your expectations because you might think if you have very high level skills, that makes you a great fit. And sometimes those very high level skills are actually harder to place. So I just want to manage your expectations. We're not here to raise anybody's hopes that something will come through for you next week or next month. But I think as our model becomes more known, then there will be more ways to work with high-skilled workers. I don't know of a doctor who has taken a role in an aged care facility. I think we would worry about their happiness. Would you as a doctor be happy in that kind of capacity? That is a question that I would ask. But if you feel like you are happy moving for any role that involves patients and care, just make a note of that in your talent catalog profile. Really share as much of your personal story and your personal interest and aptitude as possible. And that will help us decide when we sift through the catalog looking for the best candidates for a given opportunity if you are a good fit. Otherwise, I would say a doctor probably wouldn't be picked up because we would worry that they would just not be happy.
Okay. What about assistant to doctor? Because I've known that some people have.
That's more realistic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And again, I think where we've really seen it happen is qualified nurses who can be extremely skilled, but working more in this personal care capacity, whether it's older people, disabled people. That's a good entry route in because there is so much demand and employers can't find the talent locally. So they really have to look somewhere else. And you clearly, if you're a nurse, you have that ability, but it's just a question of whether you are at peace with that decision.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm sorry to ask very specific questions. It's just we know that based on our experience, because we also assess people, we visit and we interview them, we know that many of refugees are doctors, medical doctors. Even in the Q&A, I saw that one of them is a 56-year-old medical doctor. So yeah, that's important to highlight.
Yes, and this is a selfish request. I want to be clear about that. But one of the things that you're helping us do is once we have a lot of profiles from Indonesia in the talent catalog. Sorry?
Please go on. Yes.
No, I know we're close to time as well. We already have a lot of profiles just from the work that CRS has been doing in these past few weeks. We're very pleased to see all these profiles from Indonesia. So we are now doing an analysis of who is in the talent catalog and what are the skills we should focus on. So we always have inquiries from employers. Some of it can be completely random, but we also want to reach out to employers who have the capacity to hire a significant number of refugees from Indonesia. So by entering your information in the talent catalog, you're helping to direct to us so that we understand what kinds of jobs to look for you. Now, that's not going to pay results for each individual. This is a service you're doing for everybody, but it will help us make sure that more jobs are available for refugees in Indonesia generally.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We're 3 minutes to the closing. Before I give the floor to the TBB, Unhcr, and my colleague in CRS to give closing remarks, I would like to inform you that I have typed in the chat room the number that you can reach, which is my number, if you have questions about Talent Beyond Boundaries. Unfortunately, questions not regarding Talent Beyond Boundaries will not be responded. And please expect me to reply it on working hours, working days, things like that. And like we have already addressed in the Q&A as well as in the presentation, if you feel like you still have not had English qualification and other kinds of qualification, we really invite you to prepare yourself first. you are ready. We want you to be ready before you apply. So this also includes maybe some of you wants me to assist or to write your CV. You know, that's not gonna happen because we would like you to be ready first to write your CV, to create your CV, to create your own registration. We will not be assisting that. Okay, and my phone number is in chat room. It's 081317984515. And you can watch the recording of this webinar on YouTube channel of Talent Beyond Boundaries. All you need to do is to type Talent Beyond Boundaries on YouTube, and the channel will appear, and you can just look the video of the recording of the webinar today. And
it might be tomorrow, Yuri, just to say it might, just because the person who has the information to upload it is out for a couple of days. So perhaps we can either alert you when it's available, or you can check back in a couple of days. A bit of a delay there, sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We don't have a channel YouTube, and you address that matter, and we really appreciate that. The questions that back to the phone number that I shared to you, I don't want to call it helpline, because we will not be helping people. We don't want people to assume that we will help people. But if you have the questions that we are expecting you to answer, is probably mostly technicality. For example, you cannot submit it. And you have checked your internet connection. It's not about the internet connection. That's the kind of question that we can answer. Or maybe you have doubts about family members. The Indonesia's context, family members requirement, status requirement, that we can answer. But if the question is about, I cannot speak English, I cannot write CV, unfortunately we can't. Okay, it's been a great opportunity. It's been a great 2 hours of this webinar. I would like to give the floor to Muaz to give closing remarks, if any, to the attendees today.
Thank you so much, CRS and Yuri, for the organization and a great presentation, and having this webinar actually happen. And thank you, TBB and Rachel, of course, you are the one who's behind all of this. It's really a great opportunity. We are at Unhcr, we are very happy to see this excitement and how refugees are really coming into this, and they are excited, and they would like to participate into this. Applications were already submitted, and that is great. And what is most important is to see more opportunities, more doors are opened for refugees, and especially under such programs, we see that refugees are not only vulnerable people who need for assistance, they are also resourceful, they are also skilled people, they would like to work and contribute in communities, and that is really great, and we are very happy to see this is happening. There are always opportunities, there are more opportunities we are still discussing and trying to realize and make them happen, and we will announce them once they are actually tangible and we can proceed with them. Always keep the hope, and there are more opportunities are coming, hopefully, and we will remain in touch with you. Thank you very much, everybody, again, and I hand over to Rachel.
Sure, just to say thank you all. I know that this is a complicated sounding process. I assure you it's actually quite simple to get started. I encourage you to consider it. And don't, as Muaz said, don't lose hope. We encourage you to explore all opportunities. The odds of any solution in the world working out are always low, so keep looking in all directions. But if this is a fit for you, then let TBB be one of those options. I wish you the best of luck. We are here for you, and we look forward to looking at the information that you put into the talent catalog. Best of luck to all of you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Rachel. One last question before we close is, we do have a list of occupation in Australia. Will we be able to share it to the community?
Yes, absolutely. And that was one of the slides in your slide deck. So please feel free. That is public information. There is no reason not to. Sometimes you might not be sure if your occupation fits in there. I mean, I feel that way when I look at it. And we have to go to lawyers to find this out sometimes. We don't necessarily even know that in-house. So if you're in doubt, go ahead and register. If it seems like it might be connected, that's fine. So here's an example. So truck drivers are not in there because in Australia, the government felt that it would be too risky. What if something happened? Because there is such a risk of injury, frankly, through a vehicle. So truck drivers aren't on there. And if what you do is drive a truck, then you can be confident that that's not a match. But there are other professions that, you know, are related to care, or they're technical, maybe a different kind of engineer, something like that. If you're in doubt, go ahead and put your profile in. And then when we get to that point, we would have a lawyer check it.
Great. What about tailor? Because I haven't seen tailor in the list of occupation.
Yeah, I would have to look at the list. I think it also depends what kind of tailor you are. If you're sewing, if it's an individual basis, I don't think that would be covered. But if it's some kind of commercial enterprise and you are skilled at working in a commercial facility, it might be included.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Muaz. Thank you so much, Rachel. And also for Julia and Buyeni that has left the meeting earlier for another meeting. And thank you so much, especially for everyone who has attended the webinar today. We have such a great discussion, very hopeful discussion. And I would like to echo Rachel and Muaz and say to you, best of luck, good luck. Hopefully this will be the great opportunity for many of you. So with saying that, I will close this webinar and have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day, everyone.